In 1806, the Southwest waterfront became the location of America's oldest continually operated open-air fish market.
The lunchroom and the oyster shucking shed were located at the Municipal Fish Market, which was built in 1915, 1916, and it was built to provide for sanitary situation for the fish market. There were, I think, 7 buildings originally, the very large market itself, which was a series of arcades for trucks to pull in to get the fish that had been brought in from the river.
The market's lunchroom building and adjacent oyster shucking shed were designed by DC's municipal architect, Snowden Ashford. The lunchroom is a small, one-story brick colonial revival-style building that served the market's workers. The oyster shucking shed provided space to process the thousands of oysters delivered to the market's wharf every day. Over the years, these modest buildings were greatly altered. Early on, the lunchroom was adapted into a public restaurant, which required demolishing 2 of its original facades. The oyster shucking shed was eventually connected to the lunchroom by a breezeway. By the early 2000s, the structures were used only as locker rooms for workers at the wharf.
To be honest, it was not a lot of building left, but the fact is that we had original drawings that were in the Library of Congress, and when we started digging, we found a lot more building than we might have expected would be there.
The lunchroom underwent asbestos abatement, and the walls, beams, roof, and cupola were reinforced. With over 25 bends, the metal gutters were restored. During construction, an original door and window were uncovered. This allowed the project team to verify dimensions with historic drawings, as well as to restore and incorporate architectural artifacts into the rehabilitated building.
Finding it, I remember when Emily was like, Adrian, you've got to come here. We found a door. And I'm like, no way. So get there, and the door is just in great shape except for the bottoms. We actually restored that one, so it's still there. And then we made another one to match it. But it was good because the profiles were there, so we could actually make a decent replica.
The surviving elements of the oyster shed steel frame and roof structure were tagged, removed, and restored off-site. The original wide flange column and angled bracing were then reassembled in front of a new glass box insertion with doors on all sides.
It was a smaller project than we're used to, but it had elements and surprises in it that just made it exciting to be on. And then to watch it transform from half a building to a whole building, and you're like, I bet this is how it looked. And you go look at pictures of it, and you're like, look, it's been recreated. See, there was no reason to knock down everything and start all over.
Echoing the market's past, the rehabilitated structure now houses the Rappahannock Oyster Company restaurant.
To everybody's credit, I think it does a pretty good job of capturing not just the history of that building and what was there up until the building was built, but also, tying back to the history of the fish market as a place today. And it's an institution that I think we've done a pretty admirable job as a team of ensuring that it's going to be here for the next generation.
These modest conjoined buildings are now the historic centerpiece of the reimagined fish market.